che parlerà in inglese, in tedesco purtroppo non l'abbiamo previsto.
Although it would, of course, be nice to hear German in Rome, but no, we have agreed to make the presentation in English, and thank you, Mario, for inviting me and for all the presentations that we had so far in this, I think, really important project. I mean, given the current situation that we have in Europe, in the banking sector, especially in the more private banks working internationally, which is the focus that we have once we are talking about European Works Councils, it is, of course, that we more and more face a situation where the idea of the European Works Council as such to transfer at least a minimum of information on consultation into countries where this concept might not be as developed in the European Union as in others. We see today that mostly those companies are having European Works Councils who come from jurisdictions that are very experienced with co-determination on almost all levels, on the works level, on the enterprise level, and even on the supervisory board in some countries. So at the moment, what is happening in the current situation is that the more learning effect European Works Councils could have for countries not so involved in co-determination, we are missing because of the way that they are set up always in the countries where the most employees are, which usually are not Central and Eastern European countries, or to say it more generally, new member states. Even to the contrary, we have heard this morning as well that people coming from these countries into works councils even face difficulties coming from jurisdictions where not even unions are well established, which makes it also difficult for the European Works Council to really integrate these ideas that are happening and coming from these countries. Usually, our jurisdiction have an answer to very international groups in the legal framework, in the sense that, for example, when a Swiss leading enterprise is not willing to provide information to the then next largest enterprise in the European Union, which might, in this case, has come from Germany, the courts have decided that then the German enterprise, although not being the group head, has the right to gather this information in order to start the process. But this is still a very, very iterative exercise in the sense that we are all still trying to work with these kinds of rules, although they are in place for quite a time. So these questions continue to pop up. And from my personal view with respect to the sectoral social dialogue we are in on the European level, we of course have to bear in mind, and I will come back to this a little later, that we not only have private banks who are well able to deal with European Works Councils and have experiences with this, we also have two other tiers of banking, especially savings and cooperative banks, which are not comparable to private banks dealing with these kinds of issues. And so if one would envision to tackle such a topic within the framework of European sectoral social dialogue, the way to set this up would be rather challenging. And I really mean it. I would not say it is not possible, but I would say it is a challenging exercise to sort out that all three groups of banks would be able to see that there is something like a added value to their group as well. So this we would have to take care of also. And then the issue that Mario has raised with respect to the coordination of the directives, I think this is a very important thing. And it brings me to another important point that was also talked about when it came to the operational point of view, which I will come back a little later. And this is not only the issue of a lack of coordination between the directives, it is especially the issue of a lack of coordination between the European Works Councils and national constituencies, national obligations to consult with works councils or whatever is present on the national level. We have a diverse field, and this was referred to very, very correctly before. But it means what we are talking about today is that especially countries being rather highly developed with respect to co-determination, starting at the level of the works and not only at the enterprise, but really at the small entities where the tasks are done, that no synergy whatsoever can be derived from the European Works Councils, because it is not possible, not only because the directives are not harmonized, but also the connection between the European Works Councils and the national levels is simply non-existent. It is simply something that was put on top without anything bringing it back to the bottom. And this is, of course, a challenge, you could say, for employers. Employers get used to of repeating it, so it's not so much an issue. But the point that really comes in mind, and that was raised from our French colleagues a minute ago, it could be an entity where people see what is happening in Europe can have an effect on what I do. But with this distinction of not giving it the opportunity to have a national effect, this is totally lost. Of course, we fully understand, and when we talk to our national constituencies, it is not that they always are ready to transfer own powers to the European level. We are well aware of that. But also from an employer's perspective, it could be something that would be worth talking about within a European social dialogue. But for both sides, I think it is a rather tricky issue, a very challenging issue, because different ideas on either side have to be harmonized as well in order to talk about this. But I think it would be worthwhile because it is the natural next step if you would think about this as being a system, not merely being something just put on top of everything that has been done, but if you try to, of course, slowly, small steps, try to find a little bit of a harmonization in this field where some kind of impact it might have in this respect. So this more a couple of words with respect to the general setting. With respect to the handbooks, I think it is a very, very good decision to try, and you succeeded in doing so, not merely tried, but at the beginning it was a trial, to distinguish between the more theoretical dimension that is very, very necessary as a basic knowledge about it, what European Works Councils are, but then at the same time provide with information that the rubber can hit the road, that the European Works Councils really can benefit from experiences that are out in the world and that can be brought into the Works Councils. Of course, not in the sense of copy-paste, but in the sense of considering and seeing whether it is something that fits to the special situation that each and every European Works Council is in. Communication, you said, as a very important point, and that is true, and this is internal communication within the European Works Council on either side. Another aspect of the communication is the communication to the outside. It is a rather difficult thing. It is not only the secrecy issue, but it is also the issues, at least for publicly listed companies, of providing market price relevant information, which is not something that people in European Works Councils have to worry too much, but it is something that boards and supervisory of boards of enterprises have to worry about. And when it comes to a point that should such information be provided, it would make the whole European Works Council probably being susceptible to very stringent supervisory measures that we all know that they are usually not. And so it's a little bit of a balancing act to find out what can be said, but usually people from at least Italy, France and Germany that deal with these issues more often, for them it is not a problem because it is well-established procedures that we have in this respect. But it is something that we have to keep in mind, talking in a pan-European framework, so to speak, where these kind of issues might not be on the forefront of everyone's thinking. I think the quality of the dialogue, this struck me, what you mentioned, might really depend also on what the factual grounding of the employee side in the European Works Councils is within their home constituencies. As we have seen, there are no legal connections, but of course people have a factual impact on what is happening on the national level, what they take out from the European Works Council and what they bring in, and how far they are able to do this within their national level. And so really personalities are important in this in this format, and I think you addressed it several times, and Mario did as well with the example of how to allocate funds that you do not need for translation. But I'm seriously very, very much of the opinion that if you already lack the opportunity to exchange on the employee side, you know, really talking about what is happening, being dependent on a plenary and interpretation, it will be very, very difficult to come with a much more prepared vision to such a meeting. And this is much more, I think, an issue than the question of what kind of documents are provided at what time before a meeting. Because at the end of the day, it has to do a lot with communication on either side and with coming to some kind of a pre-opinion before things are discussed, and of course, and opinions might be finalized in such a setting. So, for me, it is striking that there is so little interest from the employer side to discuss the questions that you raised with you. I personally cannot really understand it, because I think it is something that really both sides can profit from, and for us will be the question on whether we can find a framework on the European level biannual or so, biannual framework, to really try to invite stakeholders and just foster a kind of exchange and bring this as a general topic, because as you named it here, the fostering of employees' participation, I mean, it is something where you would think that peer exchange could be something really very, very vital for both sides. At least for your side, I think the two handbooks have demonstrated that it exactly has this kind of an impact. When you think about how could this start, of course, one could think about mapping experiences in works councils by digging deeper into the subjects along the lines that you have already started with this project, bringing in, of course, the employer side of view, trying to identify where these in the other sectors, co-ops, savings banks, plays a role, so that it is a truly banking issue. At the same time, being able to find specific issues that we have as a sector, in order not to have cross-sectoral social partners like Business Europe and ETUC having the feeling that we mingle in their waters, but that we find something that is specific for what we are doing. And there are enough questions that are specific, bringing me to the point of the current project we are in on the European levels, sectoral social dialogue, mapping the different kinds of rules and regulations that we have with respect to regulating the business side and their effects on employment. So this is definitely something that is of little relevance to a cross-sectoral level and social partners. we try to find out whether these rules and directives, BRRD, Basel III, CRD4, are really implemented in a way that we can talk about a level playing field. When we went with this project, not only to London, but we had other projects that went to Romania and Bulgaria, and we could very well see that there's still, if not different rules on the face of the paper, they have to be very differently applied in order for us to find out such differences in how banking is operated throughout the European member states. And we hope to find out with the project that we are conducting at the moment to really see where this comes from, where are the roots for this. And we hope to come up with answers that we can then use maybe even in such a setting as well, what we talk about today, to find out whether these are reasons for that. In another project that we had before, when we were talking about the crisis and the reasons for the crisis, and I remember very well it was in this very room where we had the presentation where we got explained from the professor how market values are coming together and where this came to the point where it really became dangerous. That we are now, of course, in the crisis that we have, are talking about how can banking products remain profitable with the competition that we have from what we 1999 and then 2001 called the non-bank phenomenon. We already have a common declaration on that. FinTech, the term was not yet invented, so we talked about non-banks. But it was really the same issue from a structural point of view, that we had competition outside the regulations that we have. And when I talked to Dombrovskis, who is the vice president competent for the euro, but also for social dialogue, it was crucial for me to point out two things. One was that the speed of regulation in a co-determined enterprise doesn't allow to implement one rule before the next one comes. And I can provide practical examples for this, because they come to the personnel departments that I represent, that negotiate with the works councils, that then go to a conciliation procedure probably, and then this is done, and without having even a month's time, the next regulation comes. And if we try to work like this, you know, you really have to ask yourself as a commission, and this is what I was meant, whether you take this co-determination procedure seriously as a joint exercise on the employee and the employer side to find the rule fitting for the enterprise, or whether this is just a strategic exercise that you formally run through. And if you not only run through it, but want to materially alter something, implement something in the way that it fits, then you have to provide time for this. You cannot move at the speed of market. You cannot move at the speed how regulators would like to move, but you have to have the opportunity of a feedback. And this is not yet established in a way that we would like to have it established. And so the question of profitability is, and this is what the second point that I would like to point out in these kind of discussions with the European Commission, is that if Juncker goes and says that he wants to have a AAA room of social security in Europe, this will not be the room of fintechs, because there is no co-determination, there is no unionization, and the end of the point is these co-determination procedures, they put a price tag to the product. The consumer has to be willing to pay it. If he or she isn't willing to pay it but moves on to the fintechs of this world, it will be difficult for all of us to come to this world. And the thing is, for me, that I would like to have consistent messages from the Commission. You know, and a consistent message is not that I provide for the enterprises that guarantee for us, maybe not from your view a AAA social security, but from our view and also from the view of the Dublin Foundation, the banking industry in Europe still is a very, very good place to work on all 5 indicators, far above average of all other sectors. So, but it means at the same time that if regulation puts more pressure on costs, which is no other word of saying putting pressure on jobs, you have to make a political decision at some point, what kind of world you envision. And we as employers, and also together at some point with Michael Budowson of Unifinance, jointly put this point forward, because it is of our common interest that people realize that these things, European Works Councils, co-determination procedure, collective bargaining, sectoral social dialogue, does not come for free. People have to do it. People need to sustain a living in some context. So there always is something like a price tag. And we do not ask for privileges, but we ask for a fair and level playing field. This is all we ask for. And in our point of view, there are, I will put it diplomatically and say, I can identify areas where there's room for improvement. And this is all that I would like to say. One point of view, and then I will no longer stand in the way of your lunch, should you not have questions, because I know this is a very responsible time slot I'm in. Mario and I, together with all you, in the last 10 years, many times, addressed the issue of responsible sales. Many times. Not successfully, because employers always rejected to talk about it. The reasons for this are manifold. 2 I will identify a little later. Oh no, I start with it. One is, when it comes to the consumer view, we are hesitant to talk about these issues with you. Why? The reason is, for us, you are not merely an NGO, you are a social partner. We have a lot of NGOs, a lot of consumer protection NGOs that tackle this issue, but we always have a very, very firm standing with respect to the Commission that we say we do not want these people around the table because they run on a different ticket than our social partner counterparts do. They have a special role under the treaty, which NGOs do not have. And we try, and we still continue to, it is a sincere feeling that we have, we would like to really keep these fields distinguished, because the dialogue that we conduct with one another is privileged, but is privileged in certain topics. And we do not want to risk, or even put a doubt, that we really know what these issues, what these privileged issues are. And this is why we are a little careful when it comes to talk about, for example, a question, what is the impact on savers? What is the impact on customers on this? Because we have the feeling that this is a little bit, and it is open for discussion, a little bit outside the core, unique selling point that we have as social partners. When it comes to the point of employees, what is sales directives in the enterprise doing with employees? Where is this stressful? Where is it difficult? The point is, we still have not officially agreed to talk about this. But we have agreed in the sectoral social dialogue to talk about regulation. And we are conducting a mapping exercise. And I am very, very aware that we have regulations on the training of sales personnel, the bonuses of sales personnel not being only dependent on quantitative, but also having to be dependent on qualitative criteria. I know that there's regulation on this. I know that the mapping exercise might come up with questions with this. They might be raised by you. It's a fair question. It might come up. I don't know how how the employer side, because you know I'm talking for three and only representing one formally, will react to this. But I have the feeling for the first time, with the respect to the structure of the project we are talking about today, this issue might come up in the phase 2 after we have done the mapping as being one item that we want to look at, whether this is evenly applied on the regulation, where the regulation is transferred onto the member states, because it will definitely have an impact how bonuses are construed for sales personnel, how this is done, especially in other countries. You know, in Germany it was fairly easy, because we could convince our national legislator that because of the role that social partners have in Germany, having a constitutional right to keep the state and the government out of our collective agreements, they cannot regulate what we agree with the unions on the national level. But this is not the case in other countries. And so this topic might come up where it is not safeguarded, that where you agree with the union, that this is then really what the employer can do, not having to take care about what is regulated in banking regulation. And so this problem might come up. There are answers that we have in our national collective agreement that we do not deem to be dangerous at all, not giving false incentives, which regulation is about trying to prevent. But it really might be something where we are able to talk, or have to talk about, if you raise the issue. I do not think that it's so much an issue of sustainability, but I think it is very much an issue of sustainability in the sense of not providing false incentive, not putting the enterprise at risk, not putting, and this is clearly in the regulation as well, a saver or a customer at risk of getting the wrong product, but looked at it from the employer's or employee's perspective, and not looked at it from the customer's perspective. And I think with these words I would like to stop it, giving the point in time. Then I have at least 5 minutes for you for questions, in order to allow Mario to call for the lunch break on time. So thank you very much for listening.
Bene, molte grazie. Comunque ci ha posto, credo, anche qualche opportunità interessante rispetto al dialogo sociale. Noi ci vedremo come sessione di dialogo sociale banche fra una settimana a Bruxelles, e spero che anche quella possa essere una sede per continuare, per proseguire questo ragionamento, perché effettivamente è vero, ripetutamente si è provato a inserire nel dialogo sociale banche, credo anche in quello assicurativo, però frequento di più quello banche, il tema delle vendite responsabili, e non è mai stato possibile riuscire effettivamente a trattarlo direttamente, per le resistenze che sono venute dalle associazioni imprenditoriali, anche se, come ci diceva Jens molto onestamente, ci sono state discussioni, cioè c'è un interesse. Il discutere quindi di come le regolamentazioni vengono applicate è forse un modo per bypassare alcuni problemi politici e per riuscire comunque a discuterne. Poi certo, se dal lato sindacale del tavolo verranno poste domande relative agli incentivi salariali e relativi ai bonuses e relativi a politiche contrattuali o extracontrattuali che investono direttamente i lavoratori che vendono prodotti, e come la vendita dei prodotti viene incentivata, le domande le faremo e vedremo di aprire una discussione. Io credo comunque che possiamo darci uno spazio di 10-15 minuti per domande, interventi da questo punto di vista, e fissare la pausa pranzo alle 13:15 alla sala Guido Rossa, quindi mi taccio e se ci sono domande benvengano, grazie.
Oui, au-delà de questions, des remarques par rapport à votre intervention, et je vous remercie de la franchise de l'intervention déjà dans le débat et dans l'échange. On est effectivement tout à fait intéressé par essayer de se remettre autour de la table sur les ventes responsables et aboutir à un réel échange. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, on le voit bien, derrière le terme vente responsable, que pourraient s'accaparer les associations de consommateurs, nous, ce qui nous intéresse le plus, c'est ce qui touche les salariés des réseaux bancaires et la pression commerciale qu'ils peuvent subir, tant à travers le comportement des clients, mais également de leur hiérarchie qui, par moment, leur fixent des objectifs qui ont clairement un impact sur leur vie personnelle et sur même leur santé au travail. Donc je pense qu'il y a un débat à avoir sur ce point-là, au-delà de la responsabilité de l'entreprise vis-à-vis du client. Il y a la responsabilité du salarié et de l'entreprise en interne, comment on manage les commerciaux, comment on fixe une politique commerciale de vente de bons produits à la bonne personne et au bon moment. Donc je pense que c'est important qu'on puisse en discuter et reprendre les discussions là-dessus. Ce qui m'a intéressé également dans votre propos, c'est surtout ce qui est la non-banque et la distorsion de concurrence. Aujourd'hui, il y a effectivement des règles qui sont imposées par la Commission européenne à nos métiers. On est d'ailleurs demandeur de certaines règles et de certains contrôles et de certaines transparences, mais on voit bien que ces règles ne s'imposent pas à tous et on a très certainement un intérêt commun pour les salariés à faire que l'on n'ait pas de distorsion de concurrence entre les banques et tous ceux qui viennent faire de la banque aujourd'hui autour et qui viennent impacter à la fois nos marges, à la fois nos bénéfices et quelque part nos conditions de travail pour les salariés. Donc il y a un réel débat à avoir là-dessus pour faire que si on applique des règles, elles ne s'appliquent pas uniquement aux banques. Et je pense qu'à la fois représentants des salariés et à la fois employeurs, on peut avoir une démarche commune pour éviter ces distorsions de concurrence qui n'auront finalement qu'une seule conséquence, c'est de faire que les banques n'auront plus la rentabilité nécessaire pour maintenir certains emplois. Et c'est quelque part, je vais être un peu trivial, les salariés qui en paieraient la note. Donc je pense que là-dessus, c'est un débat à avoir absolument et rapidement, mais en gardant à l'idée que plus de transparence et plus de régulation restent quand même nécessaires quand on voit les dernières affaires. Il y a certaines amendes payées la semaine dernière par BNP Paribas qui prouvent qu'encore ces règles, si elles sont plus nombreuses, elles sont aussi nécessaires parce qu'il y a quand même quelques débordements. Donc il y a un débat à avoir ensemble, mais pour faire que la banque soit régie par des règles, mais que ces règles s'appliquent à tous. Le dernier point que je voulais aborder sur les comités européens, oui, le comité européen a effectivement un coût. Oui, il faut trouver sa place par rapport aux instances nationales, mais une place où chacun peut exister. C'est-à-dire qu'aujourd'hui, et je parle pour un syndicat français dont j'en suis le responsable, aujourd'hui il est nécessaire d'avoir ces étages de négociation. Il ne doit pas y avoir un empilage de règles qui empêcherait et qui fixerait dans le marbre, qui empêcherait toute évolution, mais on doit avoir aussi des débats à tout niveau. Donc il faut trouver des règles qui permettent d'évoluer tout en respectant les règles nationales qui ne sont pas arrivées du jour au lendemain et qui sont issues d'un débat et d'un dialogue social important. Donc je pense qu'on doit moderniser le dialogue social, mais on ne doit pas oublier que les règles qui existent aujourd'hui, elles sont construites dans le temps et elles sont construites pour le bien des salariés.
Delle persone che partecipano al CAE. È importante avere delle persone preparate a lavorare con il CAE, persone che siano in grado anche di condurre gli altri paesi, gli altri rappresentanti a portare concretezza in quello che si fa. Quindi il manuale è sicuramente molto utile dal punto di vista teorico e della pratica del CAE, credo che comunque sia anche importante avere delle iniziative di formazione per i membri del CAE, credo che faccia qualcosa Unifinance tra le altre cose, ma proprio perché si lavora in maniera diversa in un CAE da come si lavora a livello nazionale, quindi è importante che le persone siano preparate, proprio perché i tempi del CAE sono molto dilatati, tra una sessione e l'altra sono dilatati, pertanto se non si riesce a lavorare tra una sessione e l'altra, portare avanti consapevolezza, problematiche comuni, la riunione del CAI perde di significato. Quindi concordo su quello che hai detto, che è importante chi sono le persone che rappresentano il proprio paese nel CAE.
Sobre lo que ha comentado Sebastián, efectivamente la formación es muy importante para todos los empleados de todos los países, pero bueno, en nuestro caso en Europa, porque lo que estamos viendo es que a nivel de los empleados tenemos un estrés añadido a nuestro trabajo con formaciones de compliance para actuar en forma, siguiendo las regulaciones y todas estas cosas. Sin embargo, estamos viendo que algunos bancos, no todos, pero hacen a nivel ya de un cierto grado de responsabilidad en la gestión de la empresa, les dejan, porque al final si lo hacen es que en algún sitio o no han tenido la formación de compliance o no le han dado la importancia que tenía, hacen lo que sea con tal de ganar dinero. Y eso me parece totalmente inadecuado y lo que ha dicho Sebastián, al final las multas las pagamos entre todos y los salarios y los empleos desaparecen. Y yo creo que es importante que las empresas tengan su regulación, y nosotros las seguimos, pero parece que a ciertos niveles no le dan la importancia que tiene. Seguramente es una interpretación mía, porque son asuntos que pueden dar mucho dinero y se la juegan. Es mi punto de vista. Gracias.